Um, I wanted to talk to you today about the return on investment. If you saw the picture that I posted a picture of a boomerang, and the boomerang is supposed to return to you. I remember when I was a kid, I was so frustrated because I would see in these TV shows or these cartoons that someone would heave a boomerang and it would turn back around and that person would just be able to catch it. And so I got a boomerang and I tried to do that and it just didn't return to me. It just didn't come back to me. And I thought to myself that there must be something broken with my boomerang. It didn't return the way that I expected it to return. And then we went to Australia a few years ago and I thought, well, for sure, if I'm going to get a boomerang, a real boomerang, I'm going to get one here in Australia. And so my kids went in the backyard where we were, and they tossed the boomerang, and it literally did not return. It went so far off, it actually got lost in the high grass, and so we weren't able to return. It never returned to us. And I thought to myself, there must be something wrong with either how we throw or the boomerang itself. And I think that there's probably a design for boomerang that keeps it returning the way it's supposed to return if you know how to throw it. Now I thought to myself this morning, I have a little bit of hunter-gatherer from that area in me. I should know how to throw. I should know how to actually throw that. But just because it may be in your blood doesn't mean it actually is in you. And so there's some things that you have to learn on how to make sure that you have the right skill set that things return to you. So what is return on investment? What is ROI? ROI means literally return on investment. So if you think about that, in everything that you're investing in, if you're investing energy into a workout, there's got to be a return on it. If you're investing money into a stock market or a business or something, there's got to be a return on it. You have to expect something to return. If there is energy or love put into a relationship, you expect a return. So you shouldn't expect a return without some kind of input, without some kind of investment. But if you're investing, you should expect a return. It's interesting because years ago we had a piece of property, and the property was on a very busy corner, and the city officials decided that they were going to just do something different in that territory. They wanted to create a mixed use environment. So what they did is they rezoned it for the mixed use, but there was a lot of properties that didn't have the kind of use that they wanted. And so they would approach us consistently and they say, this property, the way you're using it is not the best use for this property. There's actually a better use for it. And what they're saying is that you could get a better return on your investment. Now, of course, what they were thinking about is just monetary, but the ability to influence a community may not be monetary. Maybe your return on the investment is that you're into people, or you're into helping people. If you're a nonprofit, you're into serving people. The return on investment would be different than just someone who is just wanting to build a retail space with 15 stories of apartments. Now that return on investment, they're saying, hey, you could be using this property better if they don't know what your return is. They don't really know your return is not money. Your return is the effectiveness and influence and impact you want to make in a community. If you say that to, you say that to a hospital, okay, hospitals actually have a very good return for what they're doing, most of them. But if you say that to a hospital, you say, this would be a better real estate investment if you actually put something else in here. Well, their business is serving and helping and healing people. So they're not going to change their business model to get the kind of return you want if they're going to, start making it diamonds sales or whatever. Who knows? I'm just throwing out, you know what I mean? I mean, the fact is that you have to know what your return is. You have to know that the boomerang is supposed to come back to me. And if it's not coming back to me, there's something wrong. There's something wrong in my technique. There's something wrong in my approach. There's something wrong in there's a flaw in the boomerang itself. There's something hindering it from returning. So if you don't ever know what your return is, you don't know what to expect from your return. You don't know if it's actually returning to you. You don't know whether or not what you should do in order to change the model, because you don't actually know your return. So before you can actually see if your investment is equaling your return, you have to actually know, what are you looking for? Because if you're looking for something that you would never get with the amount of investment or with the whatever you're looking, you will never get it back, then you're actually looking in the wrong place. You have to change your investment to get the return you want, instead of saying, I want to just invest what I want to invest. I'm not going to invest anything more. This is all you're getting from me. I'm not giving you anything more than this. This is it. You're getting this. And then having some kind of attitude because you're not expecting the right return. The return is based upon your investment, and investment is based upon what you're getting. So if these things aren't matching, then you're actually going to be frustrated with the output because you're not getting the return. Now, this should be done in business. This should be seen in relationship. This should be seen in everything you do. Am I giving too much to this and not receiving back to me what I should be receiving? So I want you to understand that you have to be able to judge your return. You have to be able to judge your return. So let's think about that idea. This is not the best use. The best use in the city's mind for us was that we would tear down the building and that we would build up. Now that's happening in most cities right now. Mixed use, multi-use properties is the thing. So I live in on the east side of Seattle area, and it's in Issaquah, in Bellevue is where we do a lot of our work. And in Bellevue, there is such a massive movement, and I've seen this everywhere we travel, where cities are literally revitalizing their city, not because they're dead, but because they've rezoned it for a better use, for a higher profits or for a higher input, which it makes sense for a city to do that, to rezone a property that has a single floor zoning, to rezone it to a 10-story. Now you allow investors to come in, not only change the first level, but then at the top begin to take income from the air. I mean, that's a very smart thing. If I was a city planner, if I was a city official, I would literally be trying to rezone everything for the sake of use the air above, because that's now real estate. Air is real estate. So now someone comes up with this idea, we're going to rezone mixed use. You're going to have retail on the bottom. You're going to have condos, or you're going to have parking, or you're going to have apartments. You're going to have whatever you can above it and take the use of the air. Now that is smart for a city, because now they not only get to receive taxes from the one level, but they get to receive taxes on the whole bill. I mean, everything gets to help. It benefits them. It also benefits an investor, because an investor gets to make money from what's above, air. People are now living in high rises, which was just air 1,000 years ago. So we need to know that there is ability to make money and to expand if you know how to expand, but you have to know the return on your investment. So if a person is putting in more to build that high rise, then what it's going to give them, then what it's going to produce for them, then that's not going to be good investment. You don't want to give in that. So return is the first thing. What kind of return do I want? When you're doing a business plan, you should be asking that question. And it usually is approached this way when you're asking a question in a business plan. Not only what return on the investment, well, what's the market share you want? So you now know that the market is there. There's a market. So if you look at, I don't want to say Kinko's because I don't know where they are. I think they're called FedEx now. If you look at let's say Kinko's, you look at Kinko's and you're going to start a Kinko's or a FedEx, and is there a market for it? Or are you just dreaming of a good idea? There's things in ideas that I have that just maybe the market's not there yet. And so I can't go on it, because you need to have a market. Unless you're able to create a demand for it, there has to be a demand already in place. And then you actually try to capture as much as the shares of that market as you possibly can by offering equal or better in your service or in your product. So you want to make sure that you understand what your market is. If you have a good idea, but there's no market, it's going to be hard to get the return that you want, because you just have a great idea, but there's no craving for it. There's no desire for it. So you want to make sure that there's actually a market for it. So what's the return you want? Well, I want to make this. So let's go into a different kind of thought process real quick. Just planting. Let's talk about planting seeds. So I planted a seed years ago as a pepper seed, and I wanted the return of peppers. And so I started off with a little tiny plant, pot, and then I put some soil in there, and I put the seed in there, and then I started watering it. Well, the first thing I was looking at, I'm like, well, I'm looking at dirt here. I'm watering it every day. It's in the sun every day. It's not actually producing anything. It's maybe there's something wrong here. And so I did a little bit, and then finally one day there was just a little bit of a leaf that just sprung up, just a little leaf that started to roll out. And I thought to myself, okay, now that's produce. That's actually increaser. I like that. That's increasing. Well, now that tells me continue to water it because it's increasing. If I water that for months, a long time, put it in, and it's not increasing, then that tells me that something's wrong here. So I need to do something different. I need to change my soil. I need to look at the seed. I need to look at the root system. I need to check something out. So then it grows, and it grew into a nice little solid tree, just a little solid tree, about 2 feet tall. And I realized at that point, it was now being hindered by the box that it was in, by the container that I first grew it in. It was hindered. The root system outgrew it. It actually was it was too small for it to grow any higher. So the height of its growth was really dependent on the size of the pot that it was in, because the root system wanted to go further. It's interesting because if you don't have the right root system and even the right place and the right soil for the root system to grow, it doesn't matter how much you want it to grow and how much you want it to produce. There's something wrong in the system. You need to change the system. You need to change the environment. You need to change something about it. So I was looking for the peppers to come out about 2 feet. I was looking for it to come. It wasn't coming. The peppers didn't grow. Finally, one day I saw one little pepper bud shot out. This little white bud shot out, and I thought to myself, this is good. So these are all signs of return. These are all signs. It's not giving me fruit to eat, but it's giving me signs that there's going to be fruit coming because increase is happening. And you have to be able to celebrate the small increases before you have the return that you want. But at any point that this stops to produce, it literally stopped producing. It produced one little bud, and it produced one little pepper, and that was it. But it told me, if I could scale this up, if I could make this more fruitful, if I could actually give it more nutrients, if I can give it more of what it's demanding, it's going to produce what I want. I just have to give it the right investment. So what I did is I decided to put it outside, and I put it outside in the wrong season. Can I just say the wrong season in Southern California when I was growing this? I put it outside, and it was in the worst season. It actually shrunk back. Everything went in, and I didn't realize, because I'm not a farmer in this sense. I'm not that. But I really liked peppers, so I put it out the wrong time. The weather came and caused all of the nutrients and everything to be pulled back into the stem, to the point that into the trunk, and to the point that it just shut down for a season. I looked out there and I'm thinking, it's raining. You should have plenty of water. It's still sunny, but it's just colder than it wants to grow in. And it wasn't the right season for it. But it doesn't mean it stops working. It's doing something on the inside. It's doing something beneath when I couldn't see it. It seems like everything was pulling back. It was doing something. So when you're looking for return on investment, you can't just look at the outside. You have to go deeper. You have to look and see if there's anything happening. This reminds me of a story that I was reading today in my morning reading. And it's a story of a person who had an employee who was working in their field. And as they were working in this field, they came and they said, listen, I've looked at this plant for 3 years, this tree for 3 years, and it hasn't produced anything in 3 years. They said, cut it down. And the person said, no, don't cut it down. I just want to give me 1 more year. It's interesting because there's times where you say, I'm done with this, cut it down. And maybe it's not time to be done with it. It's just time to evaluate and to figure out why it's not working. He says, give me 1 more year to kind of do a few things that I think may work. And then if it doesn't produce any fruit by 1 more year, chop it down, just cut it down. And then the owner said, that's fine, let's do that. So what the person did is, the first thing he said is he's going to dig around it. I thought to myself, why is he going to dig around it? I thought to myself, the first thing you want to do is prune it. And I'll tell you that I was thinking, pruning it would cause more increase, but pruning doesn't cause increase if you don't see what's under first. So he said, I'm going to dig around the root system, and I'm going to make sure the roots are actually healthy. I'm going to make sure the roots are actually growing. So if you're investing in a relationship, you're investing in a business, you're investing in any kind of work, you're investing in an organization, and it's not producing on the outside for you, and you're not eating the fruit you want to eat, dig deeper, find out what's going on at the core level. Go down into the root system, dig around it, and see if the roots are actually growing. If you see new rooting, if the roots are actually going further and extended and they're getting out there, if it's not just deprived at the root system, then man, I tell you, you have something that's still worthy of investing in. But you can't tell until you get intricate, until you get into the deeper parts of how things work and you get further down. So some of us, we need to actually not only just look at the reward. If you're not getting the reward, it demands you to go and look at this system that you're using. It demands that you go and you look at the ground that you're in. It demands that you go and you look at how the system and the ground is working. Is it expanding? Is it healthy at that level, at the lowest level, at the ground level, at the foundation level? If it's healthy at the foundation level, then you'll have the growth and the produce and the fruit that you want above. But you can't have the fruit above if the system is sick, if the ground is sick, if the very ideology of the organization is sick, if the morality of the organization is sick, or if it's sick at those levels, if it's sick at the leadership levels, then it's never going to grow, because the growth happens outwardly because the leadership is digging in and expanding and growing it. And you think about each one of the root systems like a leader. If you've been an organization and the leaders are not taking off in their direction that they're supposed to go and digging in and finding their place and finding ground and grounding, then the organization can't grow. So you have to go at that leadership level, say what's happening at leadership level that we're not actually going. So dig around it, dig around. Okay, I see where that is. I see where that is. I see where that's going. See where that's going. I don't know where that is. That's weird. What is happening over here? That's strange. That is not actually going to benefit, because what you're digging into is not actually producing it's never going to produce the fruit, because you're not actually digging into the nutrients. I've seen trees where some root systems go like this and some pop up, and literally it's not in the nutrients necessary. If you're leading an organization and everybody in your organization is eating of nutrients that's opposite of your thought process, and you're not feeding them, you're going to have a weird growing organization, because they're going to be eating of something that is not actually going to benefit the growth of your organization. You need to actually look at that, either dig them back in and get them locked into what the values and the culture and the system of this organization, your organization is, or else it will take off. I'm getting way too deep into this part, but I want you to understand there's got to be things that you're going to dig into. You're going to, and if it is good, if the root system is going, but it's not growing fast enough, then you've got to, what that worker said, let's put some fertilizer around it. Let's fertilize it. Now, it's interesting, because I was thinking prune it. But you can't prune something that's not growing. You can't prune something that's not bearing fruit. The only reason you prune it's something you prune only what is already bearing fruit. If it's not bearing fruit, you don't prune it. You have to go to the depths of it. You have to go to the lower levels of it. You have to go to, is it getting the nutrients that it needs? Are you coaching the team the way that they're supposed to be coaching? Are you coaching in your family the way you're supposed to be coaching? If you want something better out of your relationship, are you training and teaching and mentoring or nurturing each other? Are you just feeding one another? Is there a culture of feeding going on in your family? Is there a culture of learning and being studious in your organization? Is there a culture of that in your mind? If you're in a business that it's all on you, are you actually growing? Are you nurturing yourself? Are you investing in you? If you're not investing in you, then of course you're not going to grow, because you're the only root system. You're like a bamboo shoot. You go straight down. If you don't go down, you're not going to shoot up. And we always use that term, the bamboo. But the bamboo, if I remember, it has one root system that goes down. That means it's a single person. And I don't mind being a bamboo, but I don't want to just have all the growth demanded on me. I want to be more like an oak tree. I want to be more like a redwood that spreads out and connects with other systems, right? So you want to just make sure that you're actually first digging around. Okay, is that leader working? Is that working right? Is that mindset working right? Is that thought process working right? Is that is that working? Because if I'm investing, if I invested my seed, I invested my water, I invested my sunshine, I invested all these things, and it's not working at the areas that I can't see upwardly, that everyone can't see. And if I don't know how to dig down and get into those areas that no one sees, if I don't know what's happening at the root system, then I can't truly expect there to be on my tree in a return, right? The return on investment. So the fact is we're looking for fruit when we're looking for return on investment. But there's some things that you need to check before you look for the return on. When you're not getting a return on, it should be go red light, no return here. I'm not getting increase. We're not shooting out anymore. The limbs are not growing out anymore. The leaves are not growing out anymore. The bud is not growing out anymore. There's something happening with this investment. I don't know what it is. Let me first dig around it. Investigate, get nosy. I mean, literally, when I find that in our leadership there's something not happening, I start asking a lot of questions around it. And I don't ask questions to the leaders only, because if you ask questions to the leaders only, you'll get that leader's explanation and excuses of why nothing's happening there. So you want to go and you say, well, so what's happening in the? How do you guys feel? And you talk to the people that they're working with. How do you feel about that? What's going on with you? What do you think the culture is? What do you think this is? And I start asking simple questions like, what's the culture of this organization? Or when I go in an organization, I'm saying, what's the vision of this organization? Someone calls me and says, hey, come and talk to my team. First thing I ask, what's the culture? What's the vision? If they don't know the culture and if they don't know the vision, forget them knowing the plan. They will never know the plan if they don't know the culture and the vision. And if they don't know the culture and the vision far away, if the only people that know the culture and the vision are the people who work very directly with that leader, and everybody down the line of that root system doesn't know, forget about it. That root system stopped growing because the culture and the vision stopped being pushed down. That leader is not pushing the nutrients down to the very tip of that root system. It's not going to grow. You need to get that leader either in the right place or in the right mindset or out. That's good to great. Right? That's a good person in the wrong place doing the wrong thing. So you got to put them in the right place doing the right thing, or nurture them. Give them the fertilizer they need. Maybe the root system looks like it wants to grow, but give them the fertilizer. Send them to conferences. Teach them. If you're in leadership, if you lead an organization and you're not teaching people, you're not actually having some kind of meeting with them where you're educating them and setting the culture and setting the vision and reminding of the culture, reminding the vision on a consistent basis, weekly, monthly, at least, then you have already destined your organization company to fail. Every time I get into a company and I work with a company that doesn't have any kind of leadership teaching that comes from the head, it's finished. It's done. They just are going to be mundane in the system that they're operating. I know I'm going a little longer today because I wanted to really just give this to you. The next thing is, so dig deep, go around it. You know what fruit you want. I want to eat peppers. I want these peppers. I want to have these peppers. If the environment's too small, expand the environment. That means the seed, the root system wants to go bigger than what the pot is. Expand the pot. Make it global instead of just being local. Make it international. Make it national. Do something bigger. Get a bigger vision. Talk bigger with your company. Talk bigger with your organization. Talk bigger with your people. Get them away from thinking, well, I just me and mine. Get them to think me, mine, and generations. Me, mine, and the world. Me, mine. We have a mission. That's what changed. That's what makes Microsoft different. That's what makes Apple different. That's what makes Amazon different. They have a global mission to serve people. And I want you to know that's going to be the thing, is that if you get isolated in making money and not having a vision bigger than just making money, your return on investment is very low. You'll be someone that just wants to build a business and sell it off. And there's a lot of people making money that way. That's what they want to do. Their return on investment is just to make money. That's great. If you don't have a mission in it, if your mission is beyond making money, then you need to create that in your company. If your company is just about making money, then create that in your company, because it's got to get into the root system, and your fertilization is the only way it goes down. Your leaders have to push it down into the furthest, deepest level of the root system. If you work by yourself, you are a bamboo shoot. You have to nurture yourself, and you have to push everything down. The thing about the bamboo shoot is going to take longer, because it takes years to grow down and days to shoot up. So you may be discouraged because you're just taking a long time and you're not seeing that upward motion. That upward motion comes to a bamboo shoot at the latter end of its life in a way because they are so singular. So you have to put more energy investing in you, read more, study more, do whatever you got to do, talk more, listen more, view more, do more in inputting in yourself so you can grow faster, deeper, and then you'll shoot up when the moment is right, when the environment's right and the platform is right for your shoot. Okay, so hopefully that, then once I can't talk about scaling, but at this point, the thing took off. I mean, literally there was a change in the environment. I worked with the system, the change environment. Next thing you know, it just took off. It literally exploded as a tree. And it started producing fruit to the point that my next door neighbor looks over the wall and says, "Hey, are those peppers?" I mean, literally he could see it. I took off a load of peppers and gave it to him. And he said they were the hottest things he's ever eaten because we had return on, I had fruit growing on the investment. So ultimately you have to be able to understand the increase, look for the increase, judge the increase. If the increase is not consistently happening, look at the root system. If the root system wants to grow but doesn't have the nutrients necessary, coach, train, teach, and mentor until that root system takes off and grows. Then you're going to look for the fruit because you want the fruit on the investment. That's right, return on the investment. So you want it to be on. It's something that people should notice. It's something that people should see. If people can't notice it and see it, then you're not getting the kind of return you want on the investment. And if you're investing, continuing investing, and you're not getting that return, then you have to do something. You have to do something around it. Worst case scenario, you may have to chop it. You may have to go, it's never going to work because I've invested the root system. I put the right systems in place. I put the right people in place. I'm in the wrong environment. Something is wrong. I need to actually put my energy somewhere else. I could keep working on this for a long time, but it's not going to give me what I need right now. So I need to go and work on it. I'm not talking about marriage or any of that. I'm talking about work on your marriage. I'm not talking about chopping your marriage. Work on your marriage, invest, root around. If people did that, they would actually have very successful relationships if they actually spent more time nurturing, more time building up and increasing. All right, I took a long time today. Hopefully that's building. Hopefully that's increasing, encouraging. I do want to show you something because part of this is making sure that every day you are investing in yourself. If you open up the journal, you can add journal today. What was my challenge? The benefits. One benefit you can gain from today's challenge, possible resolution, a possible solution for today's challenge, and victory that occurred today. You want to do that because you're going to figure out, you have to figure out if you are investing in the right thing. It's a very simple journal. If you did this every night, you just did this every night, you can do the first part. What's my today's challenge? You know, there's a challenge that's going to come. Just go ahead and add to that challenge or add that challenge there. If you know, what's the benefit? You want to find out what's the equal value to your challenge today. Don't just say, well, I have a challenging day. What's the benefit of your challenge? If you find yourself going through a challenge and you don't pull out this journal, you're not investing in yourself. So what's your challenge? Then what's the benefit of the challenge? What could be the possible benefit? Then the next, what is the possible solution for your challenge? What's going on? I'm having these challenges, going through this. What's the solution for it? Okay, I have some examples there. And then finally, at the end of the day, what's the one victory? You may have had a horrible day, but if you have a bad day and you don't actually invest in yourself enough to write down what was the one good thing I learned today, what was the one good victory out of today, then you will have not invested well in yourself. And last week we talked about habits. I keep wanting to do that on the computer. We talked about habits. So you want to go and you want to make habits and break habits, but we can come back to that now that we see that it actually works. I keep going back to my computer. So use this. This is going to be your assignment for the week. Victory journal. Use your victory journal and keep that working for you. All right. We'll see you next week. Hopefully this was encouraging. Don't forget, share this with people. Let people know that we're here. Every Tuesday, 1 o'clock, it's recorded. They can go back to our growth track when we first started that and get into our lid last week. We're going to talk about return of investment maybe again next week. but I want you to continue to build and build and build and do great things because you have great things to do. All right, we'll talk to you next week. See ya.